District 6 is 135 below that magic number. So we've got to sit down and somehow or another take some from 1 to probably give to 3 and 6 because they butt up to one another, the closest. But these folks, we'll get them to come and speak to council. They will do that and bring back a recommendation to council. Doesn't mean you have to take their recommendation, but they will give you a recommendation how to get to those numbers. And then it'll give you on page 5 of 6, it tells you the number of each race in each district. Any questions? No. Would you like for them to come if they can in April?
Yes.
Okay. Is everybody good with that? Do you want that to be because that could be a time-consuming process. Do you want that to be a workshop type deal?
Yeah, I mean, why would that be a time? I mean,
Well, I mean, for them to go through it.
We're going to go through people.
Pardon?
When they come, we're going to go through names?
No. I just think that to get some more background, I just think it would be better if that was the only thing we were dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, because it could.
Need a motion for that.
If you don't mind.
Yeah. Can I get a motion?
Well, let's find a date.
Workshop?
Let's find a date first.
All right.
Usually, if we do a workshop, we try to do the
First Monday we
first
have.
Monday of month, which
Well,
would be April the 4th.
I know, but we have our.
You got your committee meeting,
committee.
or yeah,
So it'd be the third Monday.
or we could do it on the 18th of April. Which one? 18th of April. You're right. We do have the
Yeah.
committee meeting on the 4th.
Is that all right with everybody?
18th. As of right now, Dr. Walsh, because I got a lot going on with kids and stuff, and I can't really commit to that date, but I'll try my best.
Okay.
Well, I'll reach out to them tomorrow and schedule it and see. They may not can do it on that date either.
Yeah.
But we'll try to do a workshop.
All right, can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
That's Monday, April the 18th.
Yeah.
Tina.
Is it 7 o'clock, is that what you shoot?
I would shoot for, yes, 7 o'clock. And then the last thing that I have, if you guys will, love doing a budget workshop. I think we get a lot out of it, but I think it may go even quicker and smoother if between now and April, you can give me by email, text, or come by the office what you'd like to see in the budget. I know you had mentioned about the bonuses, including that into longevity pay. You know, if there's anything that y'all think of or want to, you know, go ahead and look at.
Is that where, do they get longevity pay in December?
Yeah.
The only reservation I have on that is in the past, we kind of hooked that to, you know, good years. And it's, you know, what was it, 3 years ago, we were not having a good year and we were unable to do it.
But the point I'm making is, instead of coming up at the last minute in the budget process, go ahead and give me some of that stuff now, so I can, not saying it's gonna be in the budget, but at least I've got it on paper and we see it, and, you know, it's not at the last minute. If we can do that, that'd be.
But you're still planning on having a workshop?
Yeah.
Just want information.
Yeah, I just like to have
Be prepared.
Yeah, instead of, you know, coming to the workshops and somebody saying, let's put this in there, well, now we've got to go back and, I'd rather take something out than put something in, if that makes sense. But I'll remind you, or Tina will remind you to try to get those. And then I will say the last thing, that March 30th, if you haven't, what's due March 30th, Tina? Ethics, ethics report, due by the latest March 30th. That's all I have at this time.
All right, finance. All right, Jen.
Okay, our total cash accounts with restricted and non-restricted, we have a total in general fund, $2,293,316. In our revenues, on your sheets, I didn't take out the grant funds, which was $869,218 more in 21 than in 22.
So that number reflected the 869,000.
Right, that's got all the grant money and stuff in it.
So with
But
that out.
with that out, it'd be about $533,894, and that is due to the timing of the revenues coming in
Okay.
and stuff, and our credit factor and all, so all that plays.
I'm glad we're past that.
Okay. Then our expenses were $38,382 more in 21 than we are in 22. And I had taken out the, sanitation truck out of that, so those numbers are not included.
How are we
Water,
gonna do it with our budget when we buy money with that American Rescue?
is
We'll get in that when we get to this resolution.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
water and sewer, our total restricted and unrestricted cash accounts, $4,336,782. We spent revenues is $317,410 more in 22 than in 21. Our expenses, we spent $57,856 more in 21 than we have in 22. The golf course, our revenues, we brought in $11,232 more in 22 than we did in 21. And that is not including the transfers or the county money. Our expenses, $21,186 more in 21 than in 22, and we know that was pump repairs and replacements. Our special revenue, 2% hospitality funds, we have brought in $35,389 more in 22 than we did in 21.
What did that look like month of, you have February's?
This is February.
February, funds were drawn in $54,939.
Have you seen a big bump in?
Well, it's come up. It's come up. Yeah, since actually open, it's come up from what it was.
Okay.
We were bringing in like 49,000,
Okay.
50,000. If you do an average on that, it's still, when they open back up, it went.
November, it was the week after Thanksgiving, I think.
So based on 8 months, if I did my math right, we've collected so far during this budget year, almost 460,000. Divide that by 8, it comes up to about 57.5, so that's the average.
Yeah.
And of course, we've got 3 years left on the wellness center.
Janet, when do you plan on taking the money out of the hospitality back to the general fund?
Probably in April. I'll take it out.
So really, we got 700,000. Basically, if we look at the 700,000, what we got right now in hospitality, taking off the 199,000.
I don't know exactly what that, I don't know,
That money's gonna come off.
I don't know
What's owed to the general fund?
Right.
Yeah.
and I don't know that number until I finish with audit.
Okay.
Right now, we have a balance of 910,000.
Right, so I'm automatically going to taking that off, so we really got $700,000 that we could utilize to enhancing the wellness center, the rubber padding that you were talking about, Glenn.
Where are you coming up with 700,000? Are you coming up with 200,000?
I'm going to take it off.
You just estimate two.
Yeah, just estimate.
Okay.
What you-
Okay, stormwater, we've got, we brought in $2,238 more in 21 than we have in 22. We spent $43,323 more in 22 than we did in 21.
Okay, go ahead.
But, of those funds, I don't know if I took that out, the 240,000, to date, we've finished that, and we're in the process of getting our funds back, from FEMA and from the state. In the American Rescue Plan, we've got $1,342,918 in that plan. End of account.
If I can ask you, Janet, where is it that we pay Duke Energy for the lights here in the city? Where is that at?
That's in, 1100 council.
General, the first one
Yeah,
under.
general fund council.
How much is that? How much is that a month?
It varies. They charge X number of dollars per light fixture.
Let me see, complex, that's complex, street lighting.
That would be we paid so far $109,410.
$109,000.
We budgeted $230,000.
We pay them roughly $230,000 in a year's time.
Well, right now, we paid $109,000, which that means we've spent less than 50%, so, I mean, we're kinda ahead of the game.
My question really is that for 6 to 8 months now, I've been asking for a light fixture to go up on a pole in the west side. And
Two of them.
I think it's ridiculous.
I spoke with them today, again, to find out what the problem is. Tina has done it 4 times. The last time prior to today was February the 2nd, we still haven't heard anything. Or February the 7th? Second. And I went today to look, and they still aren't, so I made a call, and they're supposed to be looking into why it hasn't been done.
Right, and this is another thing I would like to ask you, Glenn, is that can we randomly, and it's over where my mother lives at right now, there are 4 or 5 light fixtures that are not working.
And usually the police department will go out once a month when they're out at night, and they'll write them down and turn them in. And we haven't seen much of a problem fixing lights, is putting in new lights is the problem. But I'll make sure those are on those.
All right, thank you, Mr. Strickland, PDRTA. You ran out the back door.
Catch the bus. Are we right here?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's not gonna stay there. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council, members of staff. I was up here about 1.5 years ago now, talking about PDRTA coming to Dillon County, and I wanted to give an update, and, I know that we're entering budget season, and I just want to kind of give you an idea of what we've been doing and kind of how we're doing, and then some of the growth and some things that we anticipate happening in the very near future. So even during the pandemic, this has been a success story. The Dillon Express, which is a route that runs just around the city of Dillon, we've had 13,050 trips. This is not counting March, it's just through February. So 13,000 trips there just in the city, folks going to spend money or make money, it's been really good there. And we're not, we're entering our 2nd year of service on that route. The Dillon Connect, and I gave all of y'all one of the schedules. We've actually modified the schedule 5 or 6 times since we started, and honestly, there's 2 more changes we need to make to it now. But the Dillon Connect is your Latta, Hamer, Little Rock. We've done 2,150 trips, and a lot of those folks are coming to the city of Dillon to do, the things that Dillon has to offer that some of the other places do not have to offer. We've done right at 1,000 demand response trips. And what that means, those are your folks that can't get to the bus route. We actually, up to 3/4 of a mile of all our routes that we're running now in Dillon County, they call us a day ahead of time. We go to their home and pick them up. We had one today in a wheelchair situation coming down a ramp that we have to be involved with to get them from the front door to their doctor's appointment. So we've done about 1,000 of those, and that's the more cost. It's a costly trip because you're sending a driver most of the time for one individual, but it's something that we're required to do, and so it's something that we're glad to be able to do it because these folks, they really don't have access to anything really. At Harbor Freight, started out slow. We've been, this one came halfway through the previous fiscal year, but right now we're at 1,300 trips. That's what we've done for Harbor Freight, taking folks to and from work. That 1,300, 60% has been in the last 3 months. And so that number is going to continue to grow. And some of the big pushes now, there's a real big need to connect Florence to Dillon. Harbor Freight's pushing that. Purdue's having struggles with employment. They're doing a bunch of job fairs. And there's other industry that's kind of facing the same thing. So that's something we're having conversations about. There will be federal funds available to be able to provide that service. And Marion County to Dillon is the next biggest thing. We've looked at all the heat maps for the employees, and they need more people. I know that some of those folks, some of them are current employees that are struggling to get to and from work, but a lot of it's new employees they're trying to recruit from. I don't know how the city of Dillon stands right now with employment, and if it's a major issue within the city limits, but these entities are looking outside of Dillon to try to fill vacancies that they haven't been able to fill locally. So we're going to try to help with that. We have, with that expansion, we talked about, a year and a half ago, the Marlboro County piece and connectivity with Marlboro County. Right now, we're averaging 700 trips to and from Mohawk every month. So we're doing quite a few folks, and I do see Harbor Freight being either at that or far above that in the next probably 4 to 6 months. The numbers are just growing month over month. We're adding 30% just in the past 3 or 4 months. The Harbor Freight piece is actually another demand response. We haven't built a fixed route, so we're going to Latta, we're going to Little Rock and Hamer and Lakeview. We're picking these people up to take them to work at Harbor Freight. So we actually need additional resources. Right now, that's a 14-passenger bus, and it's full. So we're going to end up having to bring on additional driver and additional bus to make that happen. Harbor Freight's aware of that. The parking route situation is something they're very interested in. So we're going to work to try to figure that out. Previous year, we came before council and asked for $10,000. I matched a number of local stakeholders. We had about 15 stakeholders to come up with enough funds to pretty much put about it's $375,000 of bus service on the road. This year, you can imagine, I know you're seeing it everywhere, but with the cost of fuel and everything else, that number is going to look a little bigger, but the biggest thing, the local ask from the city of Dillon will be $12,000, increasing about $2,000, and with the cost of insurance and the cost of fuel, that it's not going to go a long ways, but that same percentage increase across the board will get us to where we need to be able to continue providing the services and the additional services that we're looking to bring to the table. Some of you have seen the politician-style bus stops around the city. They don't last long. People are moving them. We can end up spending more money in those than we can in a fixed route bus stop, which is something I wanted to bring tonight. And I'm not sure if this has to go through design review, but this is a process. And I wasn't sure if I've actually brought one of these in the past or not to council. But this bus stop is about 9 feet high and about, probably chest high. There's a schedule box insert. It's 6 inches wide, 17 inches tall, and it's got the "You Are Here" sticker on it. And you actually can see the bus route and know how to get to and from it. And it has a timetable on it, tells you what time the bus will be there, the next bus stop. But this is something, it doesn't have to be this design. This is something that we have in most of our areas. The colors can be kind of tailored to whatever you want in Dillon. So that's something that, certainly need some guidance on, because we do plan to move forward with this. To install 50 of these throughout the city, it's roughly $20,000. It meets breakaway standards for SCDOT. We have to do encroachment permits with DOT. We have to do the dig safe, go through that entire process. And so I know some areas, the historic areas, we may look to do something different if that's necessary in Dillon. But I wanted to bring it, to your attention, just let you know this is something we plan to get on order very soon. With the $20,000, this previous year I asked for $2,000 for capital to help make this happen. The cost of these is nearly double with the increase in metal and everything else. So I would probably try to come to council, maybe ask for $4,000 to help cover $20,000 of that expense to be able to put these throughout the city. So be happy to answer any questions. Like I said, the service is doing extremely well. There's a lot of need for additional growth. A lot of people are getting help and resources. We have dialysis clients going to dialysis 3 times a week, getting treatments. We have folks going to McLeod, your care souths, just a number of folks going to work. So the service is doing well. At $4.10 a gallon, I imagine that our ridership is going to continue to grow over the coming months. And so we're here to be able to help those folks and whatever we can to promote it, continue to grow it, you know, is our goal. So that's really all I have to share. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Strickland, you said you had a sponsorship of $375,000.
So that's our local and our federal, but that's about the amount of service we have on the roadways. Yes, sir.
My question is, do you have the cost, what it's cost you at this point right now of serving the city residents here in Dillon?
The city is getting, of everything we're doing, about 40%. So you're looking at probably $170,000 in the actual city limits, the service that we have on the road. Actually, it's going to be a little more than that just because of the Harbor Freight piece. So you may be looking at 185 to 200, which could push you probably 55 to 60% of the total cost of service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll just talk about that in our budget.
Yeah, Don, you just send an email.
Yes, sir. And let me know about the bus stops, if there's design review.
Yeah,
How quick can you get that done?
Right now, there's about an 8-week lead time. So really, the sooner the better. I would hope to be able to move forward with it, just so we can place the order. We do not pay for them until we receive the shipment. So that's something that, you know, we'll be now pushing close to the next fiscal year before we can start doing the installs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, citizens report. Anybody want to talk? Okay. Old business, number 22-01, amend Title 5, Chapter 1 of the City Code Ordinance to provide provisions for regulating vacant commercial and industrial buildings within the city limits of Dillon. This is the second reading.
In my letter, if I could, you know, I recommended that if we could, if nothing else, if we do pass it tonight, to give staff time to educate these folks and maybe start enforcing in July.
I think that's only fair.
But my thing is, I would ask that we table it until we give the building owners an opportunity to come before council and let them have a say and be transparent with them, so they'll know what we're imposing on them. I don't think a lot of your building owners know what's getting ready to happen.
We could do that as
And,
well.
you know,
That's the y'all left.
you know, next month, maybe meet with the building owners, just to let them know that this council's getting ready to impose
You
regulations on
want
them.
council to meet with the building owners?
Well, I would,
I mean, that's what I'm asking.
I would think so. I would ask that we, you know, meet the building owners. There's multiple building owners uptown, so I don't think you'd have, 15 or 20 people at the most that would come before the council, and they could, you know, give us their side on how they feel about things. And my question would be on some of the questions they have, and I have, is why do you have a building uptown and you just use it for stores? Why aren't you doing anything with your building? And make that contact with them to, be able to get understanding if they don't get somebody in this building that we get ready to.
One, they can use it for storage as long as it's up to code.
Well, that's my thing, Dr. Watts, but you're gonna fine them
Yeah.
each month if they don't get a
If it's
tenant
not
in
up
their
to
building.
code.
And that's what I think we should let the building owners realize what we're getting ready to do.
Well, I guess my question would be, if you did to want to meet with them, when would you?
Well, as soon as possible, because, I mean, there's no sense in holding it up if we, you know, got a consensus up here. I'm not trying to hold up the vote, I'm just thinking we should give them an opportunity to be able to voice their concerns on what they feel.
All right.
So that's gonna be the ones with condemned buildings coming too.
It could be, you know, we
So
just
they
need to
gonna
speak to
come in
these
and say,
people.
"Hey, I don't want you to condemn my building, give me
Well,
more time."
And I don't mean this, and I think I understand what
We've
you're
been
saying.
talking about this for 3 months.
And it's been advertised, you know, as far as meeting wise, and that's
Second
making you have
reading.
2 readings, but if that's what y'all wanna do.
I mean,
and if
that's
we
what
could
I
do-
would like. I
that's
can't
what I'm saying.
speak for the council.
But if that's something y'all wanna do, we need to do it this month, because we've already got one workshop scheduled in April.
Okay.
You know, so if you wanted to do it, we could try to schedule one at the end of this month, maybe.
I mean, I'm thinking.
If that's what y'all wanna do.
If the council don't wanna see it that way, I mean, I understand, but.
We could,
I
Throw out
reckon
a
the first
date.
thing we need to do is there a motion? Can I get a motion to accept it and then to table it? Is that, well, actually, it's second reading, so,
Well, the table it before you have the
Yeah.
second reading.
so you made a motion to table.
Well, I hadn't, to this point, I was just discussing, I can make the motion to see if I can get council to go along and table it.
my own feeling is, and, you know, they've had time.
I mean, that's fine, I'm just putting it out there, I mean, do all the building owners uptown realize what the city
I
council?
can't answer
That's
that.
what I'm saying, I mean,
Well-
therefore, if you have the public meeting, you know that you've done your due diligence.
Well, but that's what your second reading is for also.
Give that
Is
an
to give them the
opportunity.
opportunity. But now again, if they don't read the newspaper or watch the meetings, you're right, they don't know.
Yeah, well, what is the goal here? What is your primary goal? Why would you wanna find these individuals?
For them to take responsibility of their buildings.
And you think that's gonna make the situation better since
Can't
downtown's
make no
in town?
worse.
I
How
have
many
no
empty
idea.
buildings we got right now?
can't
7,
tell you
8,
that.
or 9, or 10,
Oh,
all of them.
I mean,
But now, from a code perspective, if it's not in good repair, that's entirely different than finding somebody for an empty building. I
No,
think
no,
that-
no, we're not finding them for empty building.
I didn't say that, I said the use of,
The what?
the use of it.
Oh, well, and
If your primary use is,
storage, then.
I think that anybody should do what they want with their building. I mean, I'm not, I just think if this council starts getting into people's business too much, you create, like I said before, it's gonna.
well, you and I talked, you know, do we want to be big government? No, I don't think we want to be big government.
But I think we're getting that way. I just don't like getting in people's business.
I don't think people need a business uptown and storage stuff. The main street ain't for storage.
The only way I look at it now, this town's gonna move any way you do it. I mean, a person obviously wants to build to rent it to make money. They just not gonna sit on it for no practical reason at all.
But they been sitting on
You
them
go
like that
down
for
there
years
and
and
look
years and
at
years,
how
and ain't
many
done nothing
empty
with it.
buildings
They know
there
about
are.
them buildings, and they know what they got money before, they didn't do nothing with it.
But another thing I have is, if you find the individual, and you
Well,
got.
let me, I don't
Okay.
mean to interrupt you, but I've got to at this point. You
Impose regulations or think about imposing the regulations.
Can I get a second on that? Motion fails. Can I get a motion to pass the second reading?
You can make a motion for second reading.
Right.
And then discussion.
So with that being said, you don't wanna go forward and meet the individuals, period, you don't wanna talk to the building owners or anything, you just wanna go ahead and.
That was,
Okay.
that was why that failed. Okay, can I get a motion to accept the second reading and then we'll follow a discussion?
I make a motion.
I said,
All those in favor?
Discussion.
Well-
We'll have discussion first.
All right, yeah, discussion, all right, go ahead and.
Which is kind of what y'all were doing anyway.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well, I feel like it's right here. They've been fussing about the buildings downtown looking dilapidated. You fuss about the buildings on Rafferty Boulevard, some of those buildings need to be done stuff too. I feel like everybody needs to work on the buildings, so that's why the code needs to be passed.
But this is just in the
Because
historical district,
if
correct?
you're
No,
gonna-
this is
for everybody?
This is citywide.
But you understand, Tim, this is citywide, this is not
It's citywide.
historic district now.
It's the whole city of Dillon,
Yeah,
okay, same way buildings.
citywide.
Oh, okay.
I already said I would consider it if it's in the historic district, but I do not consider it just the whole city limits.
So we don't supposed to do that to the outer part of the city, just Main Street.
Our main focus is the historic district in downtown. We've never had an issue with anything
Didn't we
else.
talk about that last time?
Well, yeah, we talked about it, but, I mean, we passed it as was,
As
as is,
okay.
yeah.
Our main focus is to fix, or you know, why this came up was to fix downtown, the historic downtown Main Street. If it's council's desire, how do we go about amending it so that it, and we got, I think that the job would be daunting to go after all the places until
It would be. It would be.
you know, that would
My question is
water
this.
down, what we're doing downtown. And, our main focus is doing something with downtown in the historic district.
But my question is this too, is what if you never get the money that you're imposing each month or whatever of the fines of the building owners? Where do we go then? Court. Go to court. So we're gonna spend thousands and thousands, 20,000, 30,000 to get building owners to pay fines on their building.
Johnny, how do you?
We didn't wanna, but you know, that was not to get in an argument with you, but we didn't wanna
You're not
change
arguing.
5 to 7,000 to get our money back from the upfit grants. But we wanna go charge the building owners in the whole city of Dillon, that's empty buildings, and then put a cost on, when we don't get our money, we're gonna go file them in court to get the money from them.
How do you suggest us encourage them to get their buildings to code?
I think your focus should be uptown, if that's the case, not the whole city of Dillon.
We just talked about that.
Well, to amend this, I believe we had to bring it back because it is second reading. Do you agree?
Okay.
I was sitting here trying to think that we amend it, but.
I mean, if you
That'll
amend
give you a
it,
chance to get your people up here to, you know, in citizens report.
Well, I don't have anybody, I don't have really a dog in the fight, I just wanna make sure that we are all on the same page when we go to do this. And now, I thought it was directly for the historical district, we're talking about the whole city of Dillon, so now you brought in more building owners.
or we can, if that's what y'all wanna do, is to amend it, and I think you need to take a vote
All right.
on, to
Can I
amend
get a
it.
motion that we amend ordinance number 22-01?
Oh, you've already had a first and second, we've got to take a
Oh,
vote
yeah,
on
yeah.
that first.
Okay.
And then if it doesn't pass, then you can come back, I think, unless they want to take theirs back, is that correct?
Take what back?
Well,
We've had a first and a second,
Yes,
if one of
you
them
take
would
it.
like to take one of the first and second back, we've got to take a vote on what they.
yeah.
I think you got to call a, vote on the second reading, and if your intent is not to pass it so it can be changed,
Amended.
then your vote would
All right, let's
be.
do that.
But we won't have to take a vote if one of them would take back their.
Well, you can call it vote. Yeah, that's no problem. It's just simple.
What are we amending?
So, well, if you're gonna amend it, we will take out, from what I'm hearing now,
Historic district.
it'd only be the historic.
Well, and we'll give that.
But that will be a part of whatever the amendment's gonna
For you to
be.
bring
Dr.
it
Wallace
back.
just said that would give you time to get the building owners up here, so are you still not in favor of getting them up here to tell them what?
No,
we're doing?
The citizens report, they
Well,
can
they
come
can
up
come
here
citizens.
anytime.
Okay,
I'm
that's how
not
you wanna
putting
do it?
up
Yeah,
here.
the
with
vote-
a
the vote
bunch
won't
of
actually
people to
take place
complain about their building.
until April now, if this is what y'all decide to do to amend it.
There will be a vote tonight on the second reading, but if the council as a whole votes they don't want it citywide, the vote would be, no, we're not going forward, and then a new ordinance would go through as a first reading and a second.
That's
All All right,
So
those
you got a
in
motion?
favor of ordinance 2201? Those in favor?
I can't see hands. 3 of you?
That's to make it citywide?
Yes.
Okay.
To have what's being presented.
We're probably gonna have a split then. Opposed?
Well, if it's split, it don't pass.
Okay. So, we need to bring it back
So
to.
if
Well, my
somebody,
thing is,
if
looking
somebody
at-
wants to make a motion
Yep, that we
to amend it, we'll bring back one
to
for next
historic
month.
district only. Can I get that motion?
I make a motion that we bring it down to the historic district.
Okay. All right, second?
I second.
All right. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
All right,
so
You'll vote
four, two to oppose, but.
to bring it back for the historic
Yeah.
district.
And that, you know, as we
Yeah,
finish it, as
I would
we,
go on with that.
yeah, well, as we finish the historic district, then, you know, we can move.
You got buildings coming in 301 the same way. You got buildings coming off Main Street East the same way. And what you gonna do, let them just sit there like that? Can't make them do nothing, cause you can't make these do nothing?
Yeah, but you're talking some of them that are in the county, though,
These buildings in the city limits,
not being used.
not being used, not being nothing, just sitting up looking.
Sitting up, collecting rats.
And do understand, we bring it back, it goes back through first reading and second reading as
That's
well.
fine. All right. New business, resolution number 03-22, resolution, electing the standard allowance for lost revenues under the American Rescue Plan.
This is a sample ordinance that we copied from the Municipal Association to say that the $3.9 million we get into American Rescue Plan, we are declaring that as lost revenue under the allowance of $10 million, which all that's stating is when we do our report in April, which Janice is already beginning to fill out some paperwork, we're claiming this money as lost revenue. Does not mean that it's money that we had talked about. Well, it doesn't mean the recommendations that I gave you and some that you heard last time we met in the workshop, doesn't mean those are what we're gonna do. This resolution is just saying that we're claiming it as lost revenue.
Okay.
And then
I mean, I think, we all understand that, right?
So we're just voting on the.
We're
use
just
of
saying
funds
that's
and
lost
the time
revenue.
frame.
Yeah, we're
to,
declaring
well, no,
that's lost revenue.
when you say, what you mean use of the
It
funds?
says allow the city to use funds in a more general way, but
Yes.
still have the
Yeah.
following type of.
Yeah.
It is allocating it in a manner that opens up.
Well, I make a motion.
All right, second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Resolution number 04-22, resolution authorizing the issuance of special event permits on the South Plaza. We talked about this last
Yeah, we
time.
talked about last time, myself, Benny, Chief Lane, and Lisa Moody sat down 2 or 3 times in the last month to come up with a policy. Doesn't mean you have to pass this policy, you can do whatever you see fit with it, but this is a starting point.
I read it, it's pretty
And
thorough.
in fact, I had a phone call today, a lady requesting to close down a road to have a birthday party for a child that passed away and a DJ in the road, and I told her at this point in time, we don't have a policy.
Yep.
So,
But now, the South Plaza is a road.
well, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you were saying before about the cost involved, about police and other stuff. Now, how does that work into this? fee?
There is a portion in here that tells you what the cost would be.
It's toward the very end.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jay.
You know, there's permit fees, let's see. Remember where it's at, it might be at the back.
City services come in the middle,
Yes.
which talks about road parts, traffic cones, police. If I could just address, I was like you, I thought this was great. I think where it talks about $30 to $45 per officer, we need to maybe specify is that per
Per hour,
hour, per
yeah.
officer,
Yeah.
cause otherwise they may try to.
That's right.
That was the only suggestion I had.
Now, I hadn't really read the thing, but, I mean, they gotta have insurance and the general stuff.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a checklist of things in there.
So it's pretty expensive.
It
Yeah,
is.
and
It
the
can
whole
be.
idea is we don't wanna do it, but if you're willing to, put that together, then.
What liability do we have in it?
Well, they have to have a liability insurance of $1 million, and we have to be named
In it?
as an additional insurer. It's still our property, I mean, if something happens, we're still liable.
Yeah.
And in this package, you actually, there's a entire indemnifying hold harmless agreement, I believe,
It is.
which is,
What is that worth there?
helps a lot in court. It would help a lot in court.
So legally, it's a pretty sound, resolution.
Well, this is how you attempt to shift liability. Of course, even better is the insurance policy, because, you know, the person getting the permit might not have money, but the insurance policy is where the money is, so the two together's a good plan.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I make a motion.
Second?
I said,
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passed. All right, appointment to the Board of Architectural Review to fulfill general contractor vacancy. Who went off?
Benny, you wanna talk about that real quick?
Who went off?
Yes, sir. Stacy Jackson went off, and we had to replace him with another contractor. Spoke with Ben Hayes. He was more than willing to serve on the board. Hard to try to find contractors that actually got time to do it.
They already have plenty of time, you can't buy a 2x4. Do you need that in the form of a
Yes.
motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second? Get a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No problem.
Okay, Johnny?
Whoa.
Oh,
You
wait.
got it. You
Oh,
got
wait a
it.
minute, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You got
Yeah, the
it.
one I added. Yeah, I'd like to jump in. Removal of planters on Main Street, and, these are kind of discussed, these are things that we talked about in our committee, and one of the first things that have come forth are, along with the suggestion about penalizing these people that have all these buildings that are out of code, and, you know, falling in. But, it talked about removal of the planters, my understanding, in the middle of the street.
Which we did that.
Middle of the block.
We voted on that last one,
No, he's talking about the ones in between
on the side, yeah.
In the middle of the block, and some of the trees that are in the sidewalks. Now, is that what we're talking about here?
All the way down Main Street?
Yep.
Is that what you're speaking of, Dr. Long?
Yeah, that's,
I think the first thing is to look at, if we, and we've discussed this before, there is, possibility sometime in 2023 that Main Street's gonna be resurfaced.
right.
If we're gonna do some of this stuff, we need to go ahead and start planning now. Because come 2023, we hate to go out there and tear up.
New asphalt.
And the idea is, there's been discussions with council over the months and years about some of these planters, is to remove planters in each block. There was discussions about leaving planters on the corners of each block, but those are in the middle of the block. Not on the sidewalk, we're not talking about those, we're talking about street side planters. And I think, that, you know, was that one of the recommendations the committee made?
The committee made the recommendation to bring expand the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not our committee. I'm talking about the downtown.
Yes. I'm talking about the downtown committee and us on our Monday night.
Yeah,
meeting.
well, two things were coming out of it. They don't like the trees, blocking their sign.
Mhm.
And that was probably their biggest issue. And my concern is that we've had this for, 18, 20 years. We forgot what it looks like to have cement everywhere and nothing softening it. my own feeling is that, you know, maybe we should look at shrubbery, emphasize, and I think they wanted to turn the, parking spaces a little bit. One of the things that we wanted to bring to council was there, right now there's 4 lanes, and they talked about a 3-lane option and even a 2-lane option. Well, this would possibly restrict flow downtown. My own feeling is that, and this is personal, Jay and I don't agree on this, but I'd like to see downtown at least 2 blocks, maybe 3 blocks of it being a venue that you want to go to, not a place that you want to pass through. My degree is not in commerce. I reckon more flow means more exposure. But I just feel like that if we had the 3-lane, which would be a lane on each side, and then a center lane, a turn lane, and we move the parking spaces from 60 degrees to 45 degrees.
That's what they are now, 45.
45 now. So what was it that we were gonna do there that would create more space?
Well, you would add some space, I don't know how many, if you took out the planters
In the middle.
in the middle of the blocks.
Yeah.
Not the ends, because the ends, you can't put parking there anyway.
Well, my thought was remove the centers, leave the corners.
Yeah.
Take all your trees, all your plants out, and just go to your corners and make them look really good. And put your LED
Some of the
light
vacant
in them.
buildings need to be blocked with the trees.
Well, that's the whole point, is no one is taking attention to the building because we've got them all covered up. You can ride down there at night now, and you can't even see the building.
Right.
And, you know, people like Doc here is trying to, you know, people own property.
Yeah.
And they want you to see it.
Yeah.
And I'm just more of a person that I gotta visually see what I'm going to.
And then, with that being added to the agenda, if somebody makes a motion or directs me, so I can determine what we need to do. Because right now, I don't know what you want me to do.
Well, what I'm suggesting would literally cost us, the cost would be small.
Well, we
Do we
say
have
that.
a before, do we have a photo of what it looked like before what we done now anywhere?
Probably somewhere here.
I mean, it'd be nice to be able to see what this has added, because, I mean, it's been 18, 20 years, and.
Well, there were
It's been longer
trees.
than that.
Trees,
They're like holly trees.
yeah,
Right.
in the sidewalk area.
Right.
Yeah, we used to have a little,
Pollen
small
trees.
little pollen tree.
But,
It was attractive back in the day, but I mean, our corners are gonna bring it out anyway if we LED light them up. I mean, you're gonna see it all the way down the
You
street.
mentioned about cost again. The only cost we'll have, what did it cost us to do the island we just did? I mean, we haven't finished it, but, okay, that was just to take it out and put asphalt there. Now, we've got to come back, and hopefully the Seafunds crowd, we have talked, Bert and I have talked to them.
Glenn said, that's your biggest, the road will, if you remove any island, the road will have to be repaved within 1 year's time.
Yeah.
That's the DOT, that's the guidelines of their permit.
So, that's the reason I'm saying if we're gonna do it, we need to kind of do it on, if they're gonna resurface Main Street, which would fall into that time frame. Then we've got some issues, some of these have electrical outlets in it, water, and things like
It's more to
that.
it than just checking them out.
Right.
Some of them have main irrigation lines and water lines also.
And another thing that you could do is, just take out the trees, leave the planters there. My own feeling is that I'd like to see us go in the middle of these blocks and maybe take one of the buildings and do like we did at, next to the theater. So,
Locking
Lockman Court, where you have a throughway, a nice throughway to there's a lot of parking downtown, it's just off Main Street. But if you made that part of the, attraction, is getting from your parking space and creating some beauty in these alleys, which have a lot of, just a lot of old architecture in them that is very pretty. I think that could be part of the enhancement. Our problem could become an asset. I'm not opposed to taking the trees out if they're blocking the signage, but I still think that we ought to have shrubs and keep it green, just to make it so it's not one big concrete slab.
No, I agree with that to the corners, but I mean, cost-wise, we just haven't been keeping up with it.
Yeah.
And you still gonna have at least 20-25 left. It's still gonna be a lot, and they gotta be maintained. And I just-
You have, if you took out the center ones, you have 4 per block, 2 on each side.
That's what I'm saying.
So, you know, you're looking at, and then some blocks don't have them at all.
Yeah.
301 and East Main Street.
So 25 to 30 left, is what you're saying. Bigger ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can do a lot to them.
Yeah.
I mean, if
But
you
y'all-
make the town look better, just shrink up our liability.
What you want to know, we're gonna take them up, we're gonna leave it, that's what you want.
Tell me what you want to do. How you want to do it.
And I reckon really we're just kind of advising you, and then you'll bring it back.
Will it be easier to cut the trees down and see how it looks first?
That's what I would recommend, taking your trees out of the middle islands to begin with, because when you take the 2 islands out of the middle, all you're gaining is 2 parking spots.
Yeah.
And
Why not
you
get
gain
the
a
trees down?
this
Parking
side.
spot on each side.
Yes, sir. Be 2 on each side, that's correct, that'd be 4 per block.
But wouldn't it be quicker just to take the chainsaw and cut the trees down?
Yeah.
Well, how many planters are there now? 50 or 60?
There's an average
80?
about 8 per block.
Well, I mean, it hasn't been maintained over the years like we should. We don't have a landscaper. I mean, are we gonna hire a landscaper to keep it up? I mean, we're gonna make a budget, and I was just thinking to shrink it, take all the centers out. Leave your corners. I'm willing to compromise to the corners. If not, I'd say take it all out.
Maintained.
What you mean, the corners?
I mean, like the island, what's not being done that needs to be done?
Well, all the plants are dead. Everything's dead and gone.
Well, we got to have the money to replace it.
Well, there you go. It's all about the dollar bill.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to limit our money in it.
I understand.
I mean,
But
I'm not
I'm
counting-
trying to get direction.
Well,
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean-
Because I'm hearing different things.
well, I'll make a motion. Do we have to make a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we take them all out except for the corners,
Take out the planters.
planters, and cut the trees down, and then we'll decide what to do. You're gonna have to do something.
Well,
Go
Bert
ahead.
said it's gonna be more to it, just taking it out. You got to fix the electricity, you gotta do something with the electricity that's gonna be there.
All
You
your
gotta do something
electricity,
with the water.
plumbing's in your brick lines, Tim.
No, we
It's in
have,
your brick
we
It'll be a lot of
have,
work.
we have electricity and.
He said it wouldn't be a lot of work.
We have electricity and water in these planters too.
This all disconnected anyway. It's not
That's why-
working in
that's why
every
it did,
block.
you know.
It's not working. You seen it working?
I don't know.
I don't go down there.
But all your main lines are in that brick line, aren't they?
You got the main taps for the irrigation, a lot of them are in the center islands. So that's where we dug down the tap, shoot it across the road to the other side. So the ones in the middle's got the main taps in them.
But it could be fixed.
Well, you could just cover it up, and if you have problems, you just have to bust the cement and get back to it.
So it'd be quicker to cut them trees down and leave them there.
So it's gonna be repaid.
Or you got a motion.
I'm not getting this part.
Y'all got, you got a motion, you got a motion to remove the center planters.
And cut the trees down.
Which trees you talking about now?
All
He talking,
Oh,
the
sure.
tall,
of them. Tree
tall,
turtles,
tall
corners,
trees.
and then we'll reshape the
No,
corners.
we're not taking the corners.
That wasn't your motion.
The direction was to do the middle.
Well, we got to start somewhere.
And did you
I'm
second
saying,
it?
yeah, I'll say.
Johnny seconded.
Doc, I thought you were in favor of the center trees coming down.
Well,
Come on now, Doc. You trying to compromise, work with it.
Bert, what you think about this situation?
I do what y'all tell me to do.
No, I'm not,
Well, you can
we
invite-
we got
suggestions,
that, I'm
John.
just
Well, I mean,
informing
I
planners.
think
You gotta
y'all
look
right.
at it.
His
His suggestion was to cut the tree, the center trees down first, before you take the island up.
We got to, we gotta have some green spaces.
So, in a nutshell, what's it
People
gonna
came
cost
up to
us to
me-
remove these, what will it cost us to
About-
remove what needs to be removed?
Probably about $5,000.
For islands, the smaller ones, they're probably about $3,000.
So, how many are we looking at? 10?
Well, if you take them all out, you're talking about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, it's probably over 20 of them.
So we're gonna spend $60,000.
To get ready for your new asphalt coming in.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna come in 2 years or a year. I would suggest, I mean, we got a first
You
and
got,
second.
you got a motion.
Got a motion and a
remove,
second.
And a second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Motion.
I make a motion that we.
Well, then you
cut
need to
the
get a
trees down
landscaper then.
cut some of the trees.
I make a motion that we cut the trees down in the middle islands, which is blocking most of the,
In the
businesses.
sidewalks. See, you got it in you got some of those trees in the sidewalks. And that's what they say is blocking it.
Well, what's actually blocking, is it the ones in the,
In the center.
cause I go through there 2 or 3 times a week and I just don't pay any attention, so I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what it.
The ones in the center is blocking the building. The ones on the corner's not blocking the building.
No, we're not talking about the corners, we're gonna leave the corners as they are.
How many trees in each one of the corners, Bert? In each one of the
It
blocks?
varies.
You're talking about trees along the
Not
sidewalk, not
the
just in
big
the
tree
corner.
number, I'm just talking about the
Talking about the
tall
crepe
tree,
myrtles?
not,
The crepe myrtles?
Yeah.
You talking about the cinder brick?
no, I'm talking about the crepe, just crepe, the tall bushes, that's the ones that's the
The
problem.
ones that's out front in the planters?
No, the crepe myrtles are tall one, right?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think there's too many of those. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, you
You
cut the
can
crepe
thin
myrtles out
you
first.
can thin those out and make a still look, you know, decent. You don't want to whack them all, you take one here, and one there, and thin them down, cause there's 6, 8, maybe in a block on
I
each
think
side.
everybody in here needs to take a ride
Side
downtown
road.
and walk. You need to walk downtown.
Sure do it.
I mean, we are
Why don't
failed
there's
this
a-
town.
And look at every building you walk down and.
But the hard part of this is when you take
Yeah,
one
but
tree
the
down,
buildings
from
are
one
too
business, just
While
like
you looking at
taking
trees,
down
look at
from
the
the other
buildings.
business.
I know,
Okay.
you mean the ones that are long.
So,
Somebody,
Douglas
Douglas
is
made a
in the middle of
motion.
the motion.
Well, he can't make a motion now because it's not on our agenda to do anything. What we're just basically is voting to remove the planters. Yeah. He can't make a
I'll
motion.
do that, cause I don't
And
think we
then,
ought to do anything right now with it.
and then your next one was,
So what are we doing with the planters? I mean, they just stay there forever?
right now, nothing.
So we're not gonna landscape them or
That's
pay
not what the
them, pay
motion-
$100,000 to landscape them, or what are we gonna do?
The motion was to remove, that's all.
Well, I think
Thank
people
you.
are
What
doing
was
wants
that?
us to make a decision.
Added
Y'all
to
did.
the agenda.
We
was
did,
the
and you'll need 5 more
planners
weeks when you
being
get
removed.
anything else asked about it.
Okay.
Okay, wait.
I mean,
That's disappointing. So everybody, I guess everybody likes the way it looks down there.
No, I despise them buildings.
Do you like what's in the street?
They look better than the buildings.
Look at the shrubbery,
They
look at
look better than
everything.
them buildings. You got buildings up there with the roof falling out of,
we look on-
ceiling falling out of, it looks just, the tree looks just as good.
Or you got one more item on your agenda.
All right.
Main Street
Uh,
bids.
the discussion, the other item was, do we want a 4-lane street or a 3-lane street? And part of this discussion was, me personally, I go to the hardware store, like, I go to church. I go to church on Sunday, go to the hardware store on Saturday, and I park across the street. And, I got a full-size truck, but if I get in the end of my truck, I got about 8 inches, and I got a car on me, when I'm crossing the street. It's pretty close. and they suggested a 2-lane or a 3-lane. This is in our downtown planner, thing that we got back in November 2020. And, so I don't know that we need to see it go to a 2-lane, but a 3-lane would make it easier for people to cross at the stoplights, you know, on the corners. And, it may give us some opportunity to make those parking spaces, I think that was another thing, make those parking spaces such that, you know, we can get more parking there. Anyway, that was the next item, that, you know, 3-lane versus
So the middle lane would be a turning lane?
turn lane, yeah.
Now, all that being at the, approval of DOT.
DOT,
They still would
yeah,
have to
this is
approve.
what we wanna do, or what we suggest doing, and then we'll put it to DOT.
But I don't wanna go to DOT with a presentation, and
Go
they
through
spend
all
all
that.
their time doing
Yeah.
something, and y'all
Then
not
we don't want
interested.
it, yeah.
Can we table that part of it till we get so I can get a visual of what you're trying to actually do? 'Cause I mean, I hear what you're trying to say, but
I can't
It's
see
in the
room.
benchmark report.
I mean,
It's in the
not gonna
benchmark
get
report?
wider. Where you gonna get the room to put the third lane in there?
It's 4 lanes now.
Do we need to make a
So
It's
it's
motion?
4
4
lanes
lanes.
now, so they're just gonna make it
Make a
3
motion to
lanes.
keep it 4 lanes.
2 lanes, 1 lane going each way, and then a center lane.
So in other words, you can half, if you make it a left,
Right.
you can half it up, then you can half it up and make them left on the other end.
Right.
You ain't gonna be able to do it.
well, he made a motion.
He made a Jay made a motion to keep it as is that correct?
Correct.
All right, I get a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
So that failed 4-2.
I guess.
I voted with Jay,
Oh, did you?
I voted with them.
3-3?
So
So
3-3.
it's
3-3, so it
We
didn't
don't know
pass.
what we're gonna wanna do, and that's fine. I
So,
think,
I'm not gonna assume this.
you're not getting any direction, I know.
Well, you know, because I think if you want to change it, or want to look in changing it, you still need to vote on it. Because all you just did was
Say
made a
leave it the way
motion
it
to
is.
keep it as is.
Yeah.
And it didn't pass, so that tells me that you want to do something else, and could that be your?
Not necessarily like right away, I'm like with Johnny, I'd like to
Well, it would
look at it a little
yes.
bit longer before I decide on 3 lanes versus 4
Yeah.
lanes.
Oh, I
So
think-
therefore, I'm not willing to vote on 3 lanes tonight either.
That's cool.
That's
Because
fine.
I may, after I look at it, I may be in agreement with keeping it 4 lanes.
Look
Gotcha.
at that planner that we received.
Well, that doesn't mean you can't come back.
Oh, that's right, we can come back.
I just
with it.
voted to keep it the same.
Yeah,
That's all I.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can come back.
How does that
Yeah.
feel?
Correct, correct. So, bring it back next week?
Well, I'll get with the state and see what they can draw up for.
Yeah, all right. We're an hour and 20 minutes.
I think that's all your agenda items.
John?
Yeah, okay, wanna talk about the fire department. I know about, it's been a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, we put a new roof on one side of the fire department. The other side we're having issues with.
Yep, still having issues with what we put a new roof on.
Okay, so, can we kinda consider that the ARP money?
Good. Yeah. Again, the ARP money,
Right, I know we passed the resolution
the
tonight.
reason we did it as revenue loss to open up,
Right.
doing different stuff.
Have you went down and looked at what the issue is, Glenn? So,
Yeah.
Who did the work?
Well, the base side, as we call it, the truck side, that hasn't been worked on in probably how long? Probably that's the original roof.
Probably so.
And probably 6 years ago, 5 years ago, is when we did the living quarter side, 4 years ago, maybe?
Ain't been long we did that, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It ain't been long at all we did that. and it
But
never
he
stopped.
died, didn't he?
Well, I've called him about
Can't
30
find
times,
him
we can't
yet.
get him to return the calls, but he was about half the price we did the quotes, the bids, We got what we paid for initially.
Well, the concern I have is, it's starting to cave in, correct?
Which is, I mean,
Leak-
we're, the
leak.
tiles and stuff fall there, they stay wet. they crack.
The structure's okay, just this stuff here, drop down tiles.
That's what's gonna
Drop
do
down.
it.
Well, if we can look at that, maybe
Yeah.
use the ARP money to get that fixed. Also wanna ask about the gas, how's the gas affecting the city?
I sent out an email today, and you can see in your reports, each department and their gas usage. And 2 weeks ago, we purchased gas. $3.20,
I think it was 316 or something.
$3.16, $3.20.
But no, they didn't have the gas report this time because we couldn't
Okay.
get it downloaded.
And then we'll probably order again in the next 3 weeks. If it's at the pump for $4 that you see, we'll probably pay somewhere around $3.75, $3.80 for. We're gonna be out of budget. I'll go ahead and
No, I
answer
understand that. My thing is, can we double up with the police cars, police officers, and, kinda save some there? Trying to find ways to save is all possible.
Well, my email to the department heads today was to look at best practices.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we wanna double up in police cars. I see that, but
Yeah,
that
I'm just
kinda
making a
takes,
suggestion.
yeah, that just kinda takes away putting 2 people on a car.
Right.
And
I mean, I understand what you're
less-
saying. I'm just giving you
less
examples
area, less
on how we can
coverage.
save.
But yes, that's something we're looking at.
Okay.
Because if memory is correct, I think we budgeted like $2.75 or $3 per gallon during the budget process.
How about the movie cinema, the movie cinemas, the plaza out here, is it ever gonna open back up?
I hadn't heard anything. You heard from
No, sir.
theater?
Can we reach out to them, Benny, and see
Yes, sir.
what their intentions are going forward? Okay. Glenn, about the Harmon Park, I asked you about the trash cans and.
We got to get them. We just don't have any of those.
Okay.
The decorative cans.
Yeah, the decorative, and we need another roll-off can, we only got that one, and I noticed today the trash is falling out of it onto the park.
We had somebody burn one and we
Yeah,
took.
two out there last week, they take it.
Steve, you get that one?
I don't have a good idea where it went.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
I'd called you, Glenn, about the stormwater research, and, I appreciate the nice book that they sent out. And, I don't know if the rest of the council had a chance to look at it. I read it, and I thought it was a pretty good thing to read. The chapter really caught my eye was chapter 3 in the watersheds. I know we have anywhere from 8 to 9 watersheds in our city. And of course, Bert has told us that the water does flow pretty steady under the ground. We don't have a problem with it, and I know that is part of a watershed as of above the ground, and we have in where the water pulls down. On page 36 of that book, it stated that their research shows that any significant storm event causes flooding in Dillon. And that really caught my eye. And I know we're allocating money as it is at $4 per water bill. And I know if you look at it, at a $25 to $28 on the sewer charge, that's about 15%. So, we're already leaning into an area, a budget area, I think, and we are budgeting in that area. And I think that, that we should look at stormwater like we look at sewer water. You're not gonna let sewer water stand in the street, but our stormwater does. And I talked to Glenn about the possibility either of pumping it, either to the river, in a basin, in a spray field, if that's possible. Well, I mean, it is possible. It will cost more money. But I think that will solve a lot of our issues. I know we're getting ready to place some pipes on a certain part of town, and I know that'll alleviate some of our pressure. But like we've talked before, when the river gets so high, we can't push water into the river when it's high. We can only go to the spray field with it. Same aspect with storm water. If it gets a certain height in the river, none of this water's gonna go to the river. I was just trying to think, and my thought would be, if we pumped it out in certain times, how often would we have to do that?
Only downside of that is basically you're sanctioning, I and I, you know, I mean, to take your stormwater and run it through your sewage treatment.
No,
No,
I did not mean that.
What he's talking about is having areas to pump stormwater out of town.
Right.
Not into our system, we don't wanna do that, can't do that. What that cost would be, I have no idea, which Jay and I talked about that.
Well, right now, we're at $4 per bill, even if it's double day. To me, if we're able to move it, people always say, well, what do we get for the $4? Well, there's a lot we get for it, but they don't understand that. But if we could keep stormwater from standing in our streets, I think it'd really benefit the town.
Look, the idea when council passed the stormwater fee back in 18 or 19 was to build revenue to hire two people.
Right.
And to use that money as match purposes when there were grants.
Well, if we had research done, I know we paid a lot of money for this research. Now, if we go to hydro research, which is entirely different, we can do stuff above ground. It doesn't matter if our pipes are open out of the ground and water can be pulled, and Bert can tell you that. If they're open and water can be pulled out to either a basin or a spray field, there's no difference to me than what we're dealing with right now. We don't have to have a sewer treatment plant for wastewater, for stormwater. We could either put in the river, in a basin, or on a field. We just gotta pick a spot.
I bet you could put it in the river though.
I think you can because it's clean water. It's already going to the river.
Can you pump water into that river?
Yeah.
I mean, there would be permitting, I'm assuming, through stormwater management. I don't know. That would be an engineering type.
Well, the
They're
cities,
real-
the
they're
cities
real
do
peculiar.
it, the cities do it right now.
Yeah,
Charleston, Columbia, they all push it in the river.
they're permitted, and, you know, larger cities have a stormwater,
They have basin runs.
well, they have to fall under, larger cities have to fall under, kinda like what we do with, wastewater. They have to be permitted and have to be certified in certain things to do it, but, I mean, that's not a bad idea, that's an engineering discussion, I guess.
Just
Why would
because,
engineers come to us with it.
or it'll be a hydro research, it'd be a hydro engineer. And of course, they would make that determination. I can't help it that Dillon obviously was built in a swamp. We're not built upon a hill.
Yeah, right.
And there are certain towns that are built upon the hill, and the water runs off the hill. We don't have that luxury. So I don't know how much in cost pumps would cost to alleviate that problem or pull it out. And how often would it even run? I mean,
True.
I just think it's something we need to look at. If we already got it at $4, I would be in favor of pushing it higher to make sure we don't have water standing anywhere. That's the only thing I suggest.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you push that higher, and that water stands in the road, then I guarantee you they gonna be lined up in there.
Well, you don't see sewer in the road, do you? You don't
I'm
see
just
sewer in
letting
the
you know,
road?
they hollering now about that $4.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to give them something, a bang for the buck. And I think if we could solve that issue.
Well, I think one of the bangs in the book is we did a study that was $240,000 that we had a grant for, and we just got almost $4 million in grants for stormwater.
We did.
You know, in
Let's see
three,
what it does.
in 3
No,
or 4
it'll look at
years.
a lot of the issues, but it's gonna take a lot of years.
It will, it's not gonna happen overnight.
But everybody at this table is probably affected by flooding one way or another, but no one should be.
So, you got anything else, Jay?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't have it.
What is the issue with the sewage on Hillside Drive and the?
There's a lot of sand in the line.
Were you talking about the project?
There's raw sewage.
We had a couple
Back
back
behind
up.
Nicholas's
Back
house.
up a week.
What's that?
I think we got it fixed now.
Back up,
Okay.
pull it out.
All right.
I don't have anything.
Tim?
Bert, how's it looking with your new truck?
We, hopefully I think we found one, we just waiting on
We will, found one in, was it Tampa, Florida? Tampa, Florida, $120,000, something like that. So next month, we will bring, because what we have to do now, go back to ARP money, because that's what y'all said, that was one of the recommendations, was to use ARP money to do this. We'll come back next month with a budget, ordinance to.
That's to
amend-
carry sludge?
No, yeah,
Yeah.
no, the garbage truck,
Yeah.
the garbage truck.
Used
Yeah,
residential.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring back next month the,
Anything else? We're an hour and a half.
I know we are, Dr. I got a couple things for Janet. The dog ordinance, are you gonna have something for us the next meeting?
Yes, and I've actually looked at several different things on that. And I've looked at the letter that had been sent by Mr. Jenright. Are you talking about the particular dog incident that we had talked about in the city, or the dog ordinance in general?
Yeah, talk about what we're gonna do to, when we have incidents in the city pertaining to dogs.
Yeah, I had talked with Glenn a little bit and suggested we do some perhaps revisions to that code. I think we may have some inconsistencies. And on the incident that I think occurred back in August of 2021, we looked at the letter that was sent and the response. I was telling Glenn, I really consider that a request for a hearing on that issue. And it appears that Mr. Wagner gets to be the hearing officer from what I'm reading. So,
yeah, we need to change the ordinances.
But I just wanted to find out where you at with it, and, going forward, can you have something for us on the next meeting?
yes,
So we
and
can talk about it in depth some more.
we actually talked about maybe putting it on the agenda, and I would like to talk with you about a couple of inconsistencies maybe we can clear up. What happens is things get added, and then something doesn't get changed to make it consistent, I think.
And the last thing, Dr. Wallace, is the, transfer of the building out there on, the Logistics Center building in Harbor Freight. I'd like for us to be able to talk about it at our next meeting on the agenda, and, talk about it more in depth, because it'll take a little while, tonight. I know we've been pushed for time.
And I've actually brought copies of that, and I've looked at that, and I don't have a good report for everybody. I don't mind giving it, or if you want to wait till it's.
And what he's talking about, if you remember, a year or so ago, we tried to annex what we call a logistic building. That building has been sold again, to another company, and I think there's a possibility of annexation. I don't know what Janet's possibility is, but I brought her some more information that we